What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige at the Page, and today we're going to be doing my September wrap up. Holy shit, September was such an amazing month. I read more pages than any other month so far. I read some amazing books and I completed every readathon that I wanted to participate in. Originally, so technically I've already filmed this once. I went to edit it and the audio files were fucking weird ass. So this is probably going to be a turbo speed because I can't remember a lot of the shit, but that's fine. In saying that, instead of going through each of the books and their prompts for each of the different readathons, what I'm going to do is leave a link to my spreadsheet for the readathons for September that I set up, and it outlines all the prompts, where the books fit, everything that went along for that. The only one I didn't fully complete is the Fall Into Reading-a-thon, which was the last full week of September. Timing just didn't work in my favor, so I couldn't complete all the prompts, but I still participated to a degree. So we've got 17 books to talk about. Get yourself a cup of tea or whatever you need and let's get into it. Statistics first. So as I said, I read 17 books, which equated to 6,571 pages. Holy shit! So my average page per day was about 219, which was what I needed to be able to get through everything bar City of Bones, and that equals out to 386 pages on average per book, which is the biggest this has ever been. And I'm in awe. My average star rating was a 4.44. In terms of genre, I read 1 classic, 1 contemporary, 9 fantasy, 1 mystery, 1 non-fiction, 2 paranormal, and 2 romance. A lot of the paranormals also fall under the fantasy bracket, but I'm starting to be a lot more particular with the genres that I feel they fall into. In terms of format, I read 4 ebooks, 1 physical, 11 physical and audio combination, and 1 ebook audio combination. In terms of age range, I read 7 adult, 2 new adult, 6 YA, and 2 middle grade. In terms of rating, I gave 6 5-star, 7 4.5s, 1 4-star, 2 3.5, and 1 3-star. I read 6 standalones and 11 that contributed to series, but there was a lot more. Either they were the first and the second book's not even out yet, so I'm caught up, or I actually continued on with the series. My biggest was The Mad Ship at 673 pages, and my smallness was A Softness of Height, which was 7 to 12 pages. I counted it as 12, but if you lower the fonting to like a size 10 times New Roman, it works out to be about 7. My listening hours was 57.2. What the fuck? So yeah, that was the statistics, so let's dive into the books. The first I read was Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. 5 fucking stars. We adore this series and I'm so excited to continue on with Actor Eve Brown. I can't deal. This is perfection. I still can't decide if I like this or Get a Life more. I feel like I relate to Danny a lot more, and I feel like Ash has a lot of qualities that Sophia does. So it was sort of really nice seeing relatable to our relationship, and I adored this with my heart and soul. Talia Hibbert knows how to write her romance. Those sex scenes were brilliant. The table just, yes. So very happy that I started off my month with this. The next was Before We Were Blue by E.J. Schwartz. I gave this a 3.54 stars and my review is on Goodreads. I really appreciate this story existing, and I was reading it as a NetGalley arc. It is now out. I think it was really challenging, but it was a really powerful exploration of a friendship built on being in a facility that is dealing with a lot of different things. This is following 2 girls that have eating disorders and showing the different events that have led them to be in a rehabilitation clinic for it. I don't think the rehabilitation clinics would sort of be the structure that it is. It felt very, and I don't know, I can't comment on the realism though because I've never been in a clinic and I've never had an eating disorder, so can't comment on that. For me, it was just like, oh, okay, we're getting sort of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest vibes. Just a little. So I don't know, but that was just what I felt. I really enjoyed seeing the growth of the characters and just exploring their friendship and who they are. I really liked the queer rep in it, and just the ease that it's introduced as well. One of our main protagonists is Jewish, and the author is also Jewish, so it is own voices in that rep, but just noticing a lot of the reviews, a lot of people felt a little bit uncomfortable with the way that it was done. Obviously, it's her experience and that's completely valid, but if you are sensitive to like slurs and descriptions, just be aware of that going in, I suppose. The next I read in 2 to 3 days, The Bad Ship by Robin Hobb. This is the second in the Live Ship Traders series, and holy fuck was this glorious. I didn't fill in my rating. How did I, okay. Apparently I haven't filled in the format that it was in or the star rating, even though I have written everything else, and I've looked at this page at least 6 times and completely missed it every time. But that's fine. This is following a whole cast of characters that we meet in the first book, and I have so much fun with them. I love where this is going. I don't know how I'm feeling about particular characters. I have shifted. So I really hated one particular young girl at the beginning of this, and towards the end I don't like her, but I can see her actually growing up and taking things into consideration, so I don't hate her. But I haven't read the 3rd book to know if her character is redeemed. I don't think she will be, but this is a nice progression. 5 stars, absolutely love this. Want to continue on with the Ship of Destiny ASAP. I'm trying to find it in these editions, but yeah, it's not easy to do that. Next up, I read Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I gave this a 4.5 stars, and it greatly surprised me. I had no idea why I thought I was gonna hate it going in. I just think people weren't as in love with this as the Six of Crows duology, but I love this. This is also my first foray into Leigh Bardugo, and I think it was a good place to start. I like the vibes. I really enjoyed the characters. I'm curious to see where the rest of the series goes because it ends in a way that is very interesting. Alex is a very complex individual, and I really liked exploring her, learning about the world in her own way and just viewing things very differently. She has the ability to converse with ghosts and interact with them. There was a really hard scene in this, so trigger warning for sexual assault as well. A lot of the books that I read have a lot of trigger warnings this month, so please go look them up. This was really engaging, and I flew through it and I had a blast, so I'm very happy that I picked it up. I did say to Cara, like, this was one that was on a potential unhaul list, and she's like, I would have convinced you to read it before unhauling it because I thought you were going to enjoy it. So I went in with very low expectations and it fully succeeded those, so love that. Next I read another arc, which is The Bookbinder's Daughter by Jessica Thorne. I gave this a 3.5. I really enjoyed the concept of it, and I didn't hate it. I enjoyed reading it. It wasn't a bad read, but there were just elements to it that just didn't quite hit the right notes for me. I'm a lot of ambiguity about my feelings towards this. Again, I have a full review for it, so if you want to check that out, it will be on my Goodreads. But I don't know. There were descriptions of the characters when we first got introduced to them that I was like, okay. Cara was trying to convince me to DNF and no. So I'm really thankful that I did read it because it was a fun read, but I don't feel like there was a lot of depth to it. It's a paranormal fantasy mystery element to it, and yeah, I don't really have too much else on it. It was a very middle of the road book. I'm glad that I read it because I had fun, but it's not one that's going to stick with me. Next up, I read City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and I gave this a 4.5 stars. I am in love with these characters, and I want to continue on with Kingdom of Copper, preferably in the early half of next year. I just adored getting to know them and the adventures that they start going on. There's just so much happening, and I loved it. I think that it's a fantastic world that they are exploring, and just the characters are so funny, and I was not prepared to just fall head over heels for the characters. Essentially, one of our protagonists summons a djinn and shit goes from there. So yeah, this book surprised me in the sense that I knew I was going to enjoy it, and I knew that the characters were going to be top tier. I just wasn't expecting how top tier. The ending also just was not prepared in the slightest. need to continue. Next up was Softness of Height by Lulu Cadham, and this was the Demonathon group read. I gave it 3 stars. It was cute. I enjoyed it, but there wasn't a lot to it. In the, like, it was a 2,500, 2,900, 2,500 word story. So you can't really get a lot of depth in that for me personally, and it's about a girl in year 5, and I couldn't help but think that this is published in a like fantasy magazine, and I feel like I would give it to my year 5s for them to model their writing off, just in the way that it was written. So I don't think it was bad, but it's definitely not something that I would go back to, or I would use it as a teaching resource. The next book I read was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. I gave this a 4.5 stars. I adore Wolf. He is just, yes, thank you. These characters have stolen my heart as well. A lot of great characters this month, like just hands down, love them with my heart and soul. So yes, Scarlet is continuing on with the Lunar Chronicles, and it took it to another level, and I'm keen because each just keep growing and going and going, and I am really excited to expand out our character base and build the narrative that way. Scarlet is a very headstrong, I'm just going to run into danger, I'm not really going to think this through, but I'm going to pretend that I have sort of character, which can be quite irritating. But I really loved the nature of Wolf's character, who is a very three-dimensional, and you sort of don't know where he's gonna fall. So I found that intrigue really, really engaging, and yeah. Next up, I read an arc that I received and I lost my shit when I got approved, and that was Frostheart Rise of the World Eater, which is the final book in the Frostheart series, and I am not okay. Obviously, I gave this 5 stars. Jamie Littler knows how to hurt my soul in the best possible ways. I wasn't ready for this to be over. I'm still not. Everything just had my feelings, and I need more. I am so happy that we got to follow Ash on his journey, and I'm hoping Jamie Littler does more with this world because there is so much to explore. I love that we got a little bit more backstory to some of the characters as well, but I also need them to fully go hard and just have their own stories as well, because I was not okay. My heart, I cried multiple times. Next up, I read She Who Became the Sun by Shirley Parker Chan. This was for my book club over the months of August, September. So I read it in September, and I gave this 4.5. Potentially will round up to 5. I think I marked it as 5 on Goodreads because I'm going to sit with it. There is a lot that goes into this, and I'm curious to see where the second book goes because it is only supposed to be a duology. It was a fantastic start to the series. Something that irritated me though was just the protagonist's requirement for strength and the way that they were like, I am not gonna do this, and it pulled me out of the story a little bit because I was like, who the fuck says shit like that? But I could see what was intended. Another character, her determination was done in such a slow burn sort of way, and that was amazing. I loved it so much. Marge has my soul. Fine. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think it was a great start. I really enjoyed one of the comments that I made whilst reading this was, this is so nice to read from another political perspective at some point in time that is not white guys arguing over a throne. There is a lot of political intrigue, but it's done in a really fascinating way. Next up, I read Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. Ah, my soul. 5 stars, obviously. I don't think I've given Katie Roberts any less at this point in time. This is a Hades and Persephone mafia-styled romance. Let's go with that. It's not fantasy. The characters are not powerful. They are the namesakes of these people, and they have inherited the names. Hades and Persephone's relationship was fucking glorious, and I love my cinnamon bun but also hard exterior Hades characters, and I have a complex and they have a complex, and it's fine. I think that this is going to be fantastic when it's marketed the right way. If people go in expecting a fantasy, they're not going to like it as much because there is no magic. Katie Roberts she's not a fantasy author. It is mafia styled romances, and I am here for that. Fair warning, trigger warnings. Not necessarily a trigger warning, but a content warning. They get hot and heavy, and it could potentially not be someone's vibe. So if you want to know, this throne has importance for things. I loved it though. Next up, I read my final e-arc, and that was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. I'm giving this a 4.5 stars. I absolutely adored this. I bawled my fucking eyes out. But I don't know how I feel about May's character. There is something about it that didn't sit right with me. I adore seeing these characters grow, and essentially we're following Walter, who dies, and he was a lawyer when he was alive and a bit of a dickhead. His Reaper, May, comes and takes him to a way station where he meets Hugo, who is a Reaper, to help him pass through. And he ends up staying there for quite a little while. I loved the exploration of death. I loved how all these different elements played into one another, and I loved the dynamics between the characters. It just, Apollo and Nelson are fucking brilliant, and my soul has not recovered yet. If it wasn't for my feeling of awkwardness with May, I think I know this would be a 5-star read. Taking a very different tone, I read Perfume by Patrick Sukind. So this is translated. I gave this a 3.5 stars. Still have no idea what the fuck happened in this, and well, I know what happened. It's an exploration of a guy who's born without an odor, but he has an acute sense of smell. So he wants to go and catalog all the smells in the world, make the most brilliant perfume, and he learns that he can scent himself in different ways and influence people's behavior. This is not a story of him going around and murdering people. It is a story of him becoming the perfumist and learning the techniques, about learning how to funnel those smells and the repercussions of that. The ending, I am still what the fucking over, and I finished this 3 weeks ago. Still don't. What the fuck happened? Why? If anyone has read the ending, please message me. Let's not do this in the comments because I don't want to spoil it for people. But if you have read the ending, please get in touch because I need to scream about this for a little bit longer. I'm so confused. Really interesting narrative. Didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. I felt that it wasn't a dry read. It was just exploring the depravity of humanity, which was really, really fascinating. I love that sort of shit. But yeah, just the ending took a hard turn that I don't know if it needed to. Next up we have Heroes by Stephen Fry. Obviously listened to the audiobook whilst reading along, and I gave this a 4.5 stars. The production, everything about this is a 5-star if you're new to mythology. If you're familiar with it, it's just a nice experience having Stephen Fry narrate you these stories. So for me, it didn't, wow, holy shit, this is brand new to me because I've dabbled in mythology before. I know these characters. I really liked the portrayal of Medea. I know that her story is complex, but I think Fry did excellently conveying Jason's narrative, which is focused on Jason, but still hinting at the fact that Medea is a lot more complex of a character than she's given credit for. I found a lot of humor in this. I loved Stephen Fry's just little insights. He's not changing the myth. He's not critically analyzing it. He's just telling it in a way that makes it so engaging and fun. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to continue with Troy, and I highly recommend it if you want to get into mythology. Pick these up and listen to the audiobook for them. Next up was This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron, and this is when I realized that I was on a mythology retelling massive kick, because this is following Briseis, whose family is descendants from Medea and Hecate, and there is a lot of elements to that play into this story. This is the first in a series, and I'm so excited to see where it goes. I adore Kaylin Bayron's writing, and I love her looking at the different elements of this mythology. I had a blast with it. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. It does read quite YA, but I just had so much fun, and it was such a unique take on this mythical, just an interesting take on mythology and its influences in this day and age. and I gave this a 4.5. Next, I read A Torch Against the Night by Sabatia and also gave this 4.5. I adore where this is going. I was not expecting to love these characters as much as I do, but I've fallen head over heels for them. I need to know what happens next. I'm definitely looking at getting my hands on A Reaper at the Gates ASAP to read within the first half of next year. I'm giving myself a wide time range because I read a lot. I think there are so many different elements to this that just, I was reading it and listening to it mostly passively, which is not what I normally do. I actively read along whilst listening, but I was passively listening to it going, yeah, this is interesting, cool, really enjoying, and then it ended and I'm like, holy fuck, I need to know more. I am so invested in these characters and what the fuck is happening, holy shit. And that is the exact way that I want to end a narrative on. And then finally, I read All the Bad Apples by Maura Foley Doyle. I am giving this a 4.5. Originally when I first finished it, I was like, fucking 5 stars, hands down. I think I've marked it as a 5 on Goodreads, and I think it's marked as a 5 on my statistics sheet. Probably a 4.5, if I'm being honest. It was just so captivating and whimsical, and I adored following these characters, learning about their history and the different ties that they have. And this is set in Ireland and about women being the bad apples of a family line. It was glorious. I adored this so much. And I think it really captured the mood that I was wanting to have September, October, this time of year. So I really enjoyed that aspect for it. So these are just some of the books that I read in the month of September. Like I said, I will leave the link to my readathon breakdown in the description box below if you want to see how these all match up. But I have made a few little changes, but not much from my TBR video as well. So let me know in the comments, how did your September reading go? What was the best book that you read? And did you have any surprises like for me, 9 cows? If you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. And I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye! Fuck.